Books.
Welcome to episode 54 of Unlocking Great Books.
Unlocking Great Books. Coming to you on video as well as by
That's
audio.
right. So I'm here with Carl and I'm Sean.
Oh my God, this one is a belter, isn't it? What are we doing today?
The Comfort Crisis.
By
Michael Easter.
and the subtitle?
All right. Jeez, you're into this.
I know, I'm so sorry.
So good.
Yeah.
Embrace discomfort
Right.
to reclaim your wild, happy and healthy self.
Yeah, this is a great episode. We're going to talk about why this is a really important book.
Yeah.
We might
like it a lot.
Yeah, we might dip into Anna Karenina, Blair Pascal, Mary Oliver. They're going to make an appeance.
Carl will bring his quotes,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But,
Sean's going to talk about how running a marathon's are no longer uncomfortable for him.
well, it probably would be if I went and did one now, to be honest.
Okay.
But the other cool thing about
Sorry, my bad. We should have said we last episode we talked about Hugh Van Cuylenberg and we talked about the Resilience Project, and I had a chat with Sean before this about his shirt. Can you just turn around for a second so we can see what's on the back?
Yeah.
of it? So this is an incredible shirt, and it says on the back, a conversation starter, right? So Sean, turn around and
this is a conversation
tell us about
starter.
this incredible shirt.
So I'm wearing people who know me know that there's a few loud shirts that make an appearance,
Right.
and this is Trademutt, Australian social enterprise headquartered in Brisbane, all about men's mental health. Or no, actually not just men, basically in the trades. So
Right.
builders, electricians, anyone who's out there because they lost one of their mates to suicide who was a builder.
And the shirt?
And the shirts are all workwear. So these are, they've done it for scrubs actually for hospitals and stuff as well. So
and the point being,
the idea is you wear a shirt that's a slightly out there. It's got a pattern on it. It's got, this is a conversation starter. It's actually got, you will never walk alone, a little acronym on there as well.
Don't tell my business partner that. She's a Liverpool fan.
There you go.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it starts a conversation, which is great.
Absolutely love it.
And I have literally had conversations with people who walk up and go, why does your shirt say this is a conversation starter? So it's perfect.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I wished you'd worn it last episode, but in this episode,
we'll,
let's start a conversation about the comfort crisis.
That's right. Let's go.
All right.
Let's get our discomfort
Let's
on.
get uncomfortable.
Books. I need my books.
So, Michael Easter. What do we know about Michael Easter?
Well, he's a very actually I couldn't find a lot about him.
Right. Okay.
Which is fascinating.
Well,
isn't it?
he was a sometime editor of Men's Health. Now,
so he's a writer.
Yes, and since then, of course, since this book, he's blown up.
Yeah, so he's a full-time writer.
But into travel, into workouts. I think he wrote a book about working out long before he wrote this.
Yes,
one.
I saw. Yeah, there was an older book around.
Yeah.
So he's always been interested in exercise, physiology, sports psychology, I suppose.
Yeah.
He's a journalism professor at
Yes.
UNLV.
Well, yes, right.
So,
and he's behind the 2% Project,
yes,
right?
Yeah. So he's, like another guy who, like, before he wrote a big best-selling book, his life was probably very different.
Yeah.
This was an area of passion. But I'd describe him as, he's obviously a writer. So, he's not a scientist.
Yeah.
But he writes about science.
But he does care about human potential, doesn't he?
Yes.
So the subtitle...
So he's got a very clear lane, hasn't he?
So the comfort crisis, embrace discomfort to reclaim your wild, happy and healthy self. Embrace discomfort.
Do you remember your wild self?
We'll come back to that.
Well, we're going to embrace it.
Yeah, we are. No one's going caribou hunting.
No.
Hey, but here's the weird thing. Like when we decided to make this an episode, clearly we went back and had a look at the book. It's only 2021. I thought I read this book 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like it's been, part of it is the book itself looks like it's an old, the one I've got, the original version, looks like it's an older design or something.
Ah, interesting.
It doesn't look like it's 2025.
Well, maybe he was pre-designing it to be a classic. Yeah. Which, we're going to go there. Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly, the book is about, the title captures the idea of the book. You know, that the way we're living now, with the best will in the world, we've emptied our lives of effort.
Yes, well, we've made life very easy.
Very easy, which is great, right? You're
great in some level.
Our ancestors would be really, really happy. So this is about the unintended consequences of progress, which is making us fat, depressed, unhealthy, morbidity as much as mortality.
Yes, and I love that he used that line lifespan increased, health span decreased. So
Decreased.
lifespan,
Yes.
we're getting longer lives,
Yeah.
but our health span, which is
Yeah.
the years, and we've mentioned this in previous episodes with our favourite man, Dr. Artia.
Yeah.
Dr. Artia. But,
Yeah.
actually, and weirdly, I read an Easter newsletter this morning,
All right.
and he used the line, add years to your life and life to your years.
Oh, I like that.
That's great, isn't
I
it?
like
So
that.
so you can't,
Yeah.
you don't just add years to your life. You've
Yeah.
got to add life to your years
Yeah.
as well. So you can't just do one.
Yeah.
So I like that. So, but the premise, let's go back to the book.
Well,
Yeah.
so much of this connects with the stuff we've already done, right?
Yes.
Like, actually what matters is being a human being means, social connection. Well,
Yeah.
being in nature. We'll come and talk about
Yes.
the bibliohypothesis and perseverance.
Yes.
Like struggle.
So this is a great wrap up, and you're 100% right. That it feels like there's a plethora of these books that do hard things, is good for you type things, which could allow you to come into this going, here we go again.
Oh, no.
But I think it's a beautifully written book.
This is the OG. This is a great book.
Yeah. Actually, OG is probably good.
And so the 2% thing, right? That comes from. So the 2% logo is some stairs.
Yes.
And the research says in the United States, if there's an elevator, a lift,
well, that's
only
human
2%.
behaviour.
Only 2% of people take the stairs. Be the 2%.
Yeah.
I
So
love
every
it.
day. Yeah. And every decision
Yeah.
you make. God, there's a terrible photo that I saw. They had an escalator going up to a gym with some stairs beside it, and everyone taking the escalator.
Mate,
That's that kind of captures
in
it.
my neighbourhood, I watch people drive to the gym and then walk on the
Walk on a
treadmill. No, seriously. Now,
but that captures it, isn't it? So like we joke, we're crying into our hands about this stuff, but that's the majority of things these days, isn't it? So yeah.
Okay, so
how do we want to unpick this?
Well, God, I mean, where to start?
I like his 5 themes. So why don't we just jump across the 5?
Okay.
So the first part of the book talks about make it really hard, but don't die.
So this is a thing called misogi, right? You got to find a challenge.
Yeah.
And the challenge has to take you to the edge of your ability, but it can't kill you, right?
Yeah.
And so that might be running 3Ks for you.
Yeah.
Or it might be going in the Arctic and hunting caribou for a month.
So misogi's, So actually, we should come back to.
Okay.
What's really beautiful about this book is he's telling a story about a mission that he's on with a couple of really fascinating guys. So get that, like the mission of I'm going to Alaska. Sorry, not Antarctica. That'd be interesting.
But he's in the Arctic Circle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So flying extreme north. Like you fly, then you fly, then you fly, and then you get in a little plane and it lands on some tundra and it drops you off, and you spend about 30 days.
It was a month.
They're out there for a month.
Yeah.
With all their provisions in the middle of nowhere, and there's a massive caribou migration that happens across Alaska.
Yeah.
And so their aim is to find the migration, kill a beast, and it's all like it's really interesting when he goes into the ethics of hunting and what they hunt and all that. But he very quickly realizes how uncomfortable this trip's going to be, which is the point of being there.
Yeah.
Like the 2 guys he's with are almost like, "Why are you here?" Gentrified, urban dwelling American from Las Vegas.
Because we all need this, right?
Yeah, and he's like, no, I want it to be hard. And so,
and we should say the book. Yeah. The book doesn't dwell on the hunting piece. If the hunting piece
not at all.
of turning you off, we get past that really quickly.
Yeah.
We do a really nice analysis about we are all living these really comfortable, gentrified lives.
So this is one of his misogis or missions that he does.
Yeah.
And it's very, very deliberate that he's there because he wants to be cold. He wants to be hungry. He wants to be tired, doing something he's never done before, learning something new, being pushed, and the complete unknown of where he's going, what it's like there. He has no idea. Yeah. So that's the kind of, like a good book has that, storyline that hangs in the background.
And so he's saying we should all have a misogi every year.
Yes.
Right.
So we should explain what a misogi is, isn't it? So, it's a Japanese term.
Yes.
Have you got a formal definition?
I do. You keep going and I'll come back and tell you what it is.
So
it comes from Shinto.
Okay,
and it means water cleansing.
Oh, nice.
That's what it means.
Right.
And so in the Shinto tradition, people would go and stand at a cold waterfall for a very long time.
Right.
And then you were being cleansed by the waterfall.
Okay, so a hard moment. So it's been popularized as going and doing something that has a clear goal
Yeah.
that stretches your limits. And then he adds don't die.
Don't die.
Which is, I think, is a very,
I
it's
think
like,
so, yeah.
it feels like a throwaway, but it's not. Because
Yeah, 3
to
rules
your
of
point
Misogi.
before,
Yeah.
your misogi will be different to my
Yeah.
misogi.
Yeah.
Misogi, we should say it probably properly.
Misogi, yeah.
But they talk about go and do something, and this is the bit I absolutely love, where you've got a 50-50 chance of success.
Yeah.
How powerful
make
is
it
that?
hard.
It's hard enough that
yeah.
you might fail.
Yeah.
Isn't
So
that incredible,
in his
right?
article he wrote about Misogi, he had a 4th rule, which I really like.
Oh, okay.
So not just make it hard, don't die. The 4th rule was don't tell anybody.
Oh, yes.
Which is funny given he wrote a book about it. But
Yeah.
basically don't advertise Misogi. In other
Yeah,
words,
because
don't
it's
do,
not
don't
a
do,
social media
don't do it
thing.
for
It's not
don't
a-
do it for the Instagram likes.
Yeah.
Do it for the spiritual development.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's that inward facing thing,
Yeah.
which I thought was really good. So for it to be the thing that's really important to you, it has to be important to you.
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
for other people.
Yeah.
So he talks about this thing. The line of, I know I'll want to quit.
Yes.
I know no one's watching
Yeah.
because it's not a publicity thing,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to quit because I'm watching.
Right. Oh, I love that. So
Isn't
tell me about
Yeah.
some of your long runs.
Well, this is the
Yeah.
this is
Tell
the
me about
classic.
that moment of doubt and pain.
Yeah, but we've talked about the training thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, the events are big things. You
Yeah.
know, like running a marathon's a big thing. Running a marathon for the first time is one of those moments.
Yeah.
But if you've run a marathon before, you've already run a marathon.
Yeah, got it. It's
You
not-
know,
it
like,
doesn't
so
count as
you know
Misogi.
you can do it.
Yeah.
Then you go into how fast can I run a marathon. But the training thing, it's like there is something so kind of primal, and I think this really hits on it, about going, can I go and run in that terrain?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
unknown piece.
Yeah.
I think my long run's going to go there.
Yeah.
I think I know what I need, but I've got to go out and do it. And then when you do it
Yeah.
and you learn from it, then you bank the experience.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, so that whole, we talk about, you know, there's a lot of people who won't train when the weather's bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no,
so think
I'm going
about
to skip that.
Think
day.
about the SEALs rule we talked about.
Yes.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, so that whole, if you go out and do, say, a long run, and it's crappy weather, it's freezing cold, you roll your ankle part of the way through it, but you get through the run,
Yeah.
you go home, you bank all that experience,
Yeah.
and then when you're running a marathon in downtown city on a flat tarmac,
Yeah.
you hit
You know,
30K, it's a bit hard, but you go, geez, it's not dark, raining, I haven't rolled my ankle,
I can do this.
and I was stressed at work.
I think we've
when
talked-
you know,
yeah,
like, so
yeah,
you're drawing on that experience. So that's the point of these things. Like, I think
So the way he puts it is, it might seem counterintuitive, but introducing more discomfort into your lives will help you become mentally and physically healthier.
which is
So we've mistaken comfort for health.
And
Right.
this is the counter. So he's talking about life is making everything easier. We're more comfortable. But if we experience fewer problems, we're less satisfied. And that's that whole moving bar thing.
yeah.
He talks about problem creep, doesn't he? So, and the idea of these experiences that may be little things that we do every day, or Misogi's big things, you know, he kind of argues for those, is retaining experiences that may have value at another time.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds. I can hear
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, no, nicely done.
Yes.
So,
Just about
but,
met the
but,
third
but one,
guest.
but one of the points that he makes, right, is
Yeah.
you think about anybody in your life and you ask them, tell me what you're proudest of.
Mm.
It'll be something they've struggled with. It was something that was at the edge of their ability.
Yes.
We know that that's where the rewards are.
Yeah,
and yet the default, like the low energy default is, I just don't want to do that. Like,
That's exactly right. So that's a big chunk of the first thing. There were a couple of things I wanted to dive into really
Go
quickly.
for it.
The importance of solitude.
Yes.
So he's talking about connection
Yeah.
and how important that is,
Yeah.
and our tribe of 150.
So we already said this, but let's go back to this, right? Just to be clear.
Yes.
Loneliness is time you spend on your own that you don't want
Yes.
and you don't enjoy.
Yes.
Solitude is
It's a
time
choice.
you spend on your own that you've freely chosen and
Yeah.
you really enjoy. Solitude's really, really important. It's important not to confuse solitude and loneliness.
Yes, that's a
Right.
really good
So
point.
every spiritual tradition you can think of
Yeah.
has a drive for some solitude.
Yeah, so the capacity to be alone
Yeah.
makes your interactions more richer because you've spent time with yourself.
Yeah.
So you're not there drawing on other people. That was the kind of philosophy
I love it.
of the book. I love that. And then one more, snowplow parenting.
Yeah, rather than helicopter.
Helicopter.
You just plow the thing in front of them. Yeah,
That's right.
Totally.
Snowplow parenting. I loved it.
Yeah,
It was just in the brutalistic description
I know.
of snowplow parenting, which is get out of my way.
Yeah.
I'm going to bash my way through here and make life as easy as possible for my child.
You're doing
and remove all obstacles.
Exactly.
And I was like, wow, what a picture.
Yeah. A life without effort, but a life without effort sounds like hell. Also, spend more time in nature. Now, this is
this is into our second part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
so rediscover boredom, ideally outside.
Yes.
Now, this is great.
Now, let's go to the boredom piece.
Yes.
Because one of the things that, of course, having smartphones has done is it's emptied our lives of boredom. At any moment that you're bored,
we have an endless stream of distractions. Exactly. I love that line, isn't it? Yeah.
But boredom is when you're at your most creative. If you ask people, tell me about when do you get your best ideas? There's a great quote from Sherry Turkle that says, boredom is your creativity calling to you.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And then there's the Tolstoy, isn't there, from Anna Karenina, the desire for desires.
Yes.
So boredom is a point of motivation.
Yeah.
And boredom actually, and this is where the Easter brilliance comes in, because he's grabbing the science. He's read the studies. And he's not just grabbing a study to support a point, but the whole point around brain science, neural science, saying that boredom's actually really important for our brains.
The default network.
Yeah, that's where we just sit and rebuild our brains so that we're ready to go again and all that kind of stuff.
I love that. Go on.
Yes, the ideally outside.
So this is the biophilia hypothesis. This is E.O. Wilson, right? Which makes perfect sense. We were hunter-gatherers for 350,000 years. We lived outdoors.
Yeah.
We're happier outdoors. Sound of running water, trees, all of that stuff.
Yes.
The research about this is really interesting. Go outdoors. If you can't go outdoors, bring some plants inside. If you can't bring plants inside, bring pictures of plants inside.
Yeah.
Like that's
right. Yeah,
that's how much you need to be outdoors. Now, again, reading this book in Otatahi, Christchurch, in Aotearoa, New Zealand, you can't not.
Yeah, no, we're outdoors a lot.
We're outdoors a lot.
But I was shocked at how little Americans are outdoors.
That terrified me. Right?
93% of time indoors.
Yeah.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Is that when he talks about outdoors? Is that where he talks about spend more time with silence?
Yes. So there's two things. He talks about fractals, which I love, and if you
as an engineer, you would love that.
No, but I mean it's a beautiful thing, and it really made a lot of sense for me about why I enjoy being outdoors.
Yeah.
And it's not just the wandering around. It's like, and it's this. So the idea of fractals is nature's full of complexity and patterns.
Yeah.
That makes your brain work, but it doesn't feel like it's working. So you're kind of walking outdoors and you might just be looking at trees, but a tree's covered in a million leaves.
This goes back to the Hugh van Cuylenburg thing, right?
Yeah.
You notice.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So if you don't take the time to be present in that moment and open yourself up for that, if you're sitting there listening to a podcast and not taking in the trees, then your brain's probably not getting that benefit, is it? So, and then the silence thing, and I love this thing, the sound. When you're in silence, you hear the sound of yourself.
Yeah.
So everyone fears silence because it's like you don't hear anything.
So this is literally true. Like if you go in an anechoic chamber.
Yes, and he talks about it in the book.
Yeah, you can literally hear your nervous system. You hear your heartbeat first.
Also, I've had that. I was just thinking, I had that experience. I've just been doing a photo album from our trip to the US last year.
Yeah.
And we had this very, very spiritual, and it will stick with me for the rest of my life, experience at the Grand Canyon, where we pulled up to the north rim of the Grand Canyon, and there was no one.
Whoa.
There was absolutely no one around. Like, we were pulling into these car parks, and there's no one. And we're standing there, and you're standing there, it's dead quiet. There's no wind, there's nothing. And it's that whole, you feel your heartbeat. You hear your heartbeat. I've had those experiences too.
But that's the literal meaning of awe, right? We've emptied awe of any meaning, but that's an awesome experience.
That's
You're
right.
experiencing awe.
Yeah, because you don't need to fill it with stuff. And it is the opposite.
Yeah.
And yet we kind of fear that.
For me, I did it in a decompression chamber. I was in a decompression chamber after a dive. And decompression chambers are really, really noisy when they're pressurizing.
But
then you could hear, first of all, you can hear your heartbeat in your ears.
Yes.
And then it's just weird.
Yeah. Or have you done a float? Similar thing. You know,
yeah.
like where you lie
Yeah.
in silence.
Yes. I didn't
And
like it. Did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay.
But for that reason.
Right.
Yeah. But then,
I did not
it's
like
just,
it.
You're
So
just
the-
hypersensitive.
So I know we're jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
But when he talks about get in touch with hunger, right?
Yes.
And the point of that is we have these sensations. I'm hungry, I'm lonely, I'm bored. And you immediately try and shut them down.
And fix them.
Fix them rather than just living with them.
And it's easy to fix them.
Exactly.
Isn't it? It's like
hunger. You're not
going to collapse.
Well, we told this, right? Like you're a really fit guy. If you're a fit guy, you might be 10 or 12% body fat, right? If you're 80 kilos, that's 8 kilograms of fat. A kilogram of fat's got 90,000 calories in it. You're in no danger of starving anytime soon,
Or
right?
people who go,
I'm
deliberately,
I'm not doing that, right?
a hunger strike or whatever. They don't just keel over in 20 minutes, do they? It's like,
but it's not just being in touch with hunger. It's thinking about the quality of the food you're eating.
Yeah.
We're doing a great study at the moment about basically nutritional psychiatry and about what ultra-processed foods do to your brain, particularly around depression and anxiety. We'll talk about that another day.
But again, this whole... So again, you're going to get a pattern here, aren't you, of this book, which is hunger is a little bit of, like it's a we're out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So there's discomfort.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start there. Why?
Yeah.
Do you need to fix it right now?
Yeah.
And then if you're going to fix it, what are you fixing it with? And I love that.
Yeah.
There's that line, why are you eating?
Yeah.
And if you ask yourself that, sometimes you're bored.
Mindless eating. Mindless eating is a thing, right?
Yeah. I have caught myself walking to the cupboard and opening the
Well,
cupboard.
if you're watching Netflix at night eating a packet of Doritos.
Every night, then you've got a problem. But like they literally walk to the fridge, open the fridge, or walk to the cupboard, open the cupboard, and then you go, hang on, why am I here?
Yeah.
Why? Like I just had dinner.
I know, because you need a dopamine hit, probably.
Yeah, that's right. And you just get caught in these patterns, don't you? We're all,
Yep.
To the last two areas, think about death every day.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh, yes. That's tough. It's very stoical, right? So one of the famous Stoics, if Chris Fisher's listening to the podcast, he's screaming at me now who it is. It might be Aurelius, who says you have to remember that you're a soul carrying a corpse.
Wow.
That's way too bleak for me. But,
But do you know there's something about this, and I don't know if it's the time of my life I'm in.
Yeah.
I just spent the weekend with my parents.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
There is, and he talks about this. Our Western cultures fear death.
Yeah.
And we try and prolong our lives.
So he quotes that famous Mary Oliver quote, the summer day that everybody talks about the last line of, right? Which says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" And we've talked before about, in one of the Asian traditions, they have a saying that you have two lives, right? The second one begins when you realize you only got one.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a Confucius quote, isn't it?
Is it Confucius?
Yeah.
I didn't know if it's Confucius
or it's been attributed to.
So the other thing is, there's a quote that I've always loved that comes from Pascal, and Pascal says, or may have said, it's not quite clear if he actually said it, all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is these reflection, and I actually think this is a very, very, I think this is a more powerful reflection than I've given it credit for. Because even preparing for this podcast and sitting down and going, if you think about that potentially highly unlikely scenario that tomorrow you're gone, what would you do today?
Exactly.
That is a fundamental change in your mindset, isn't it? And it doesn't mean go off, lower your cash.
There are two ways to think about
Yeah.
being finite, right? So one is that it could all end tomorrow, but the other is it will end at some point, right? And go back to Berkman. You're always choosing, right?
Yeah.
You don't think you're choosing. There's only a few thousand weeks left.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter that you're riled up about this thing, or you just let it go, or do what is the thing you've been putting off? All those types of things. So I think that's a very do
you know that song "Time" by Pink Floyd?
Yes.
I've always loved that lyrics that says, so you run and you run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking, racing around to come up behind you again. The sun is the same in a relative way, but you're older, shorter of breath, one day closer to death.
Oh, goodness. I've never really listened
Oh,
to
it's
that line.
brilliant, mate.
There
It
you
gives
go.
me goosebumps, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to ask how you were listening to Pink Floyd.
But it's true, though, right?
No, it's true.
It's
It's
absolutely
true.
true. And yeah, you don't want to think about death all the time, which is why the
No,
Stoic thing.
not in a morbid. It's not a
Yes.
morbid thing, is it?
Yeah.
It's a more of a
But one day soon, right? You're going to run out of tomorrows.
Yeah.
And that might be in 40 years. But trust me, if I'm talking to you,
But that's not long.
in 40 years, if we're still around when I'm in my 90s,
Yeah.
you're going to go, that seemed like yesterday,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
Will we still be podcasting when we're in our 90s?
there'll be something else other
Yeah.
than podcasting. So,
No, it's good.
Have you given this book to people, or have you encouraged people to read it?
Yes. I do feel like this is a book I will read again.
Yeah.
And do you know, and the last thing is carry the load. And
Yes.
this is that whole. So we've talked about discomfort. I think this is a really really great place to kind of wrap on as well. Is let's not confuse this book with a Goggins mentality. Like this, let's not confuse. Do hard things.
Yes.
And yes, he says don't die, but that's a little
you're right.
guardrail.
That's a good point, right?
That's why this is a great book, because he then goes and talks about, I found this incredible. I think the line is, or my line of thinking is, hard doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to be Goggins. So this if you walk on uneven ground, you use 28% more energy than walking on a flat paved tarmac.
And if you walk in bare feet, you're going to be much more in touch with your environment and the sensations.
Yeah.
So
we don't need this to be hard. Like I just suggested that you go and walk on uneven ground. It doesn't have to be climbing rocks or climbing a mountain. Or whatever.
if we bring in some James Clear, we're not saying make your life utterly
miserable.
We're saying in your normal, comfortable week full of pleasure, choose sometimes and add some discomfort. Deliberately add some discomfort.
And there's lots. I mean, and I think we're trapped in this thing where everything's popularized, isn't it? So like the ice bath. I've done ice baths recently for the first time, and it's not. It's not a pleasurable experience. But I know I can handle that.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be the first person to go out and say everyone should take an ice bath.
Exactly.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
That's me at the edge of my comfort zone because I've done harder things. So. And I think that's a really important thing. So you see the lifting big weights in the gym. Not everyone has to go and lift big weights.
Yeah.
Big weight to you might be just a little bit beyond where you are now. And I've really loved that idea. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be some big flash machine or mission or whatever. It's the basic things.
And the sociology in here is he's saying, because we have so much comfort and ease in our lives, we could be evolving into a different kind of human being, right? Fatter, slower, weaker. Yeah.
Well, you look at WALL-E. You remember that? I mean, that's the terrifying image I have.
So thank God for robots, right?
Yeah.
So we do need to be careful because this book's right in our wheelhouse. This book's about...
It's talking to us.
This book's about well-being.
Yeah.
It's about high performance. And there's an awful lot of physical exercise and outdoors in it. Like, it's the kind of book you could have written, right? It's exactly the sort of thing. So we love it, but we just have to be a little bit careful that it's not motivated reasoning.
Yes, that's true.
So we love it in a way that it talked to us in a way that the Resilience Project didn't talk to us.
Yeah.
But the Resilience Project's written for a different audience, where this book feels to me like it was written for you and me and the listeners in this podcast who are in the same place.
There's a good point.
Right.
So if I see a lot of accessible stuff in here. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff for people to grab onto.
You run marathons, mate. Yeah. Accessible to you as an accessible
No. But I actually, like I said before, he's making a very clear point. It doesn't have to be a marathon.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
I totally get that. I totally get that.
Do you think that people will see that, or do you get lost in the...
Well, so that's the problem with the men's health thing, right? Like, so the things he starts are pretty extreme, and the people he talks to are at the cutting edge, right? They're people training NBA athletes. Yeah. But the point he's saying is you don't need to do any of that. Yeah. Like, extreme for you might be a walk around the block and try and do 5 push-ups.
When it comes to the movement thing, he talks about we are built to be active movement generalists. Yes. Now, those 3 words are pretty loaded.
Well, so that's a good point, because the thing that he's really big on is rucking.
Yes.
And I did that after I read the book. Got a backpack, put 20 kilos in it.
Let's go away.
No, it didn't really work for me. I couldn't Did you love it?
I
I'd rather
didn't
work
mind
out
it.
in a weighted vest than put
Yeah,
my
okay,
rocking
yeah,
backpack and
yeah,
walk.
but
Yeah.
either or, it doesn't really matter.
So
Carry
he's-
something heavy.
He's making the point that hunter-gatherers, we walked or jogged long
We used to carry
distances
stuff.
and we carried heavy shit.
Yeah.
Carry something, walk distances.
Yeah, and
jobs
when
are
we say
good.
carry, we're not saying 50 kegs,
Yeah,
kilos in the
no,
back. We're
no.
talking about 10.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be honest, it doesn't actually matter because it's where you're at.
Exactly.
So,
But so to be clear, I love this book. We're not doing good, great books anymore.
No.
This is a great book. This is a 10 out of 10 book for me.
Mm.
Like it's one of those books, if I could take 20 of them to a desert island, this is in that pile. Along with Anna Karenina, by the way, which you quoted.
yeah.
Which we should do one day because
Yes.
that is a stunningly... Oh, sorry. That's
Yes, yeah, that's for another day.
Yeah.
But let's hold your Tolstoy.
So we should say he's subsequently written another book called Scarcity Brain, which
Yes.
picks up on why we get into this mess. We might do Scarcity Brain next year.
Yeah, let's have a look at that. But love this book.
Love this book.
I like the simple stuff in it. And yeah, I just think there's something in there. I love
do too.
it. Yeah. And when it's it's built on such a very powerful. We talked about the Alaska mission. Like I just loved it. I was almost hanging out to go. Where is he now?
Yeah,
you know, like what's going on in Alaska?
Well, and you made this point at the beginning.
That's great storytelling.
He's a professor of journalism. He's a great storyteller. He's a great writer, and I guess writing for Men's Health for all those years.
Yeah, you have to.
You know, this is a really. It's not an easy book to read. It's not a a dense book by any means.
No.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Well, there we go.
All right.
Excellent.
See you
Okay,
soon. All right.
wrap it up.
Bye.